So the reason that it is termed the most magnificent palace in the East, perhaps in the world, is for multiple reasons. One is, of course, that the individual buildings were, in terms of their proportion, their detailing, their decoration, they were there was something that overawed most people who encountered them. But the entire fort functioned as a whole. So it's not just one building or two buildings, but it's a sequence of spaces that leads up to the different important buildings. And the Red Fort is therefore, again, the normal conception of a fortress is that it's for either defensive or offensive purposes. And the fort in the social, economic, and political context of that time was actually many things. So the Red Fort is, it contained, of course, the palace of the emperor and his family. It also contained administrative sections, the Mughal military, then karkhanas, gardens, the service sector, all of that. And the experience of entering the fort, right from the time you entered the fort through its public gateways, they were all very coherently knit together through a series of, large courtyards that increased in size and grandeur, and a succession of gateways as you came closer and closer to the emperor's, his throne. So the entire cumulative effect, I think, was what impressed everybody. The fact that it was a very ordered succession of spaces that went into making a composite whole. So each individual building was, of course, magnificent. So therefore, in its heyday, it was a very impressive site, because it was conceived as a complete experience. And there's something that I think we should also appreciate about the fort and the city, which is something, again, that James Ferguson was responding to when he termed it the most magnificent palace in the East, perhaps in the world, was that this was planned and executed as an entire exercise. So the contemporary city of Shajahanabad and the Red Fort were built simultaneously. They were thought of as being connected, and they didn't, come up with successive rulers. Like this is what happens in a lot of historical palaces and towns. It's like one venture. So it's conceived as a whole, and then it's implemented as a whole. So therefore, it's a very dramatic and impressive spectacle, because of the fact that it's designed and built with a certain effect in mind. And then because Shah Jahan, who was the ruler who commissioned the fort and city, and he's arguably one of the richest rulers in the world at that time, and he commanded a lot of resources, power, skills. You had some of the best craftspeople in the entire subcontinent together to make the fort. So, so therefore, it's also representative of his design sensibilities and those of all these people who worked on the fort. So all that then went into making it such an impressive spectacle. And I like to call it the grand finale of the Mughal forts, just like the Taj Mahal, which is also Shah Jahan's very important act of patronage. It's like the grand finale to the imperial tombs. So similarly, the Red Fort is the grand finale to imperial Mughal forts, which, in themselves were something which were quite a spectacle.